This afternoon, for instance, I've had a quiet afternoon of calls because I had a couple move to next week, and there's a new show on Amazon and it's absolutely hilarious. And I watched it for 2.5 hours straight with no guilt, with no shame, and I was just in hysterics for most of the afternoon, and I feel amazing. It's great. But don't kid yourself about what is providing actual joy and what is instantaneous pleasure. Anybody can go masturbate and feel good and then afterwards go, what the fuck is wrong with me? Anyone can eat a pizza and then go, oh my God, why am I like this? Don't confuse the two. Find something that you have genuine childlike joy in and embrace it without the shame, whatever it might be, because you're resisting your own happiness in the pursuit of people pleasing. And when you try please everyone, you please no one, especially you.
Let's impact some men today. I think we're gonna do a great job.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Modern Man Podcast, where we are here to connect men in pursuit of their potential. I encourage you to join us as we embrace discomfort, cultivate community, and put wind in each other's sails. Now, before we jump into the episode, I first want to make sure that you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share this podcast with somebody else you know is looking to tap into their growth. For the men that are watching, I encourage you to check out the Noble Knights Men's Group, where you can find the support, the accountability, and the mentorship you need in order to achieve your goals. Join us and become a part of a community of like-minded men on a mission to improve themselves and elevate their capacity for life. And I'm excited because we're going to get some wind in our sails today from my guest, who is a high-performance coach based in London, known for helping senior leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs unlock their fullest potential and expand their capacity for life and leadership. It is a pleasure to have Adam Smith joining us on the episode today. Adam, thank you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ted. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to have a guest from across the pond. I'm glad you took the time to join us. Before we have our conversation and we jump into the episode, I want to make sure that the guest and the audience have a chance to connect, contact, and talk to each other without me getting in the way. So please grab the podcast, grab the microphone. The audience is yours. Let them know who you are, what you do, a little bit of your background, and then we can jump into your expertise and some of our conversation today, man.
Sure, it sounds good. Yeah, thanks for the intro, mate. So, I'm based out in the UK. I've been doing coaching for nearly 5 years now. I was in hospitality before in senior management positions. I was in that career for a long time. And then when COVID hit, I just knew that there was a bigger calling. I've studied the likes of Tony Robbins and Les Brown and Zig Ziglar for decades. And I'm just obsessed with people, not in a creepy way, just with with human behavior, why we do what we do, how can we change it. And what I loved about the intro there, was the pursuit. That's a word that I think is very synonymous with men. It's very synonymous with the work that I do, primarily with men. I do have female clients too, but I mainly work with men. And I think that's exactly it. We need to pursue something. We need to work towards something. And I just love developing people. I love seeing where they're at when they reach out, not in the sense of when they reach out in pain. I don't like to see people in pain, but I know that the barriers are there and I know how good they can feel by the end of the program. So that's why it's always a really nice feeling to see that transition that they go through from feeling, stuck to thriving, to really frustrated, without hope. Not in the sense that I talk to a lot of people that are suicidal or anything like that, but a lot of the time when that is the case, men feel like they're a burden. They feel like they've got nothing to offer. They feel like the world would be better without them, which we all know is just categorically not true. So to see them go from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs is just magical, mate, and I love it.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing journey to not only experience, but to go on yourself. Not that we ever enter that journey on our own. It's one of those things is we just find ourselves there, and then we have to pick up those worn out tools and start building from rock bottom. And you mentioned the word pursuing, and when I came up with the mission and the vision of the modern man, it was very intentional, and I made it connecting men in pursuit of their potential because I didn't want any finality to it, right?
Fair
I didn't
enough.
want to reach our highest potential. I don't know if we ever reach our potential. However, there could be a frustration with a perpetual pursuit without actual having the gain or getting to the end. I love that we all need to pursue something. What is what is it do you think we are pursuing, and do we ever get there?
I think what we are pursuing is by and large incorrect, as you've alluded to there, that there's this end goal, there's this destination. It's what I call destination happiness. When and then, when I achieve that goal, then I'll feel happy. When I get in better shape, then I'll feel good enough. When I earn six figures, then society will validate me. And I hear quite frequently that, especially men over typically 40, there's been some younger, some older, but at 40 plus, I've lost my purpose. I need to find my purpose. And without sounding really pedantic, purpose is not an object. It's not something that we have lost. It's not something we've misplaced. And it's not something we need to find. I think it's something we need to create. And we need
Mm,
to do that by progressing. That's why I love the word pursuit, because really progress equals happiness. When you think about it, when you get a PB at the gym, it feels good. If you have children and they come home and they were getting C grades before, now they're getting B grades, it feels good. Even though it's not directly you that's benefiting, it's someone that you love that's benefiting. When your business turns over X revenue and then you add an extra 10K onto it, whatever. But we need that, especially as men. And this is why I feel like a lot of men find therapy challenging. I'm not knocking therapy, by the way. I've had therapy. It's amazing, transformed my life. It was brilliant, along with coaching. But talking about the problem over and over and over again gets extremely tiring, number one. It gets very repetitive, and there's no strategy to move forward. That's a huge part of what we do and what I believe in. That I know what may have happened to you might have been very challenging, very trying, and in some cases traumatic. It doesn't mean that we can't feel. It doesn't mean that we can't deal with the reality of those emotions. But I invite people not to sit in it and just to take some action today. And I'm talking as small as, can you go outside for 5 minutes? Can you drink a bit more water? Can you eat a little bit healthier? Can you go to bed a bit earlier? Can you reduce your screen time by 30 minutes? Can you put a blocker on apps that are not serving you? Can you avoid the news for a few weeks? You know, not groundbreaking cold plunges and kale smoothies and chanting
mm,
affirmations. Just start off real small and then we can build. So that's a very long answer, but ultimately, I think that, yeah, progress is happiness and we have to pursue that. Can we get a bit better each day rather than saying when and then?
yeah. No, 100%. When and then is one of those perpetual things where like I'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes.
Mhm,
And the reality is tomorrow is also not promised. So we're continuing to put the power into an imaginary future that isn't guaranteed, as
mhm.
opposed to the commitment of that 1%. 1% a day is 365% a year. And
Yes.
the reality is we get intimidated by the person who's doing the cold plunges or the person who's working out at 4 a.m. doing all the push-ups. And if anyone's watching my story, they see my push-ups at 4 a.m. or really they see my push-ups at 2:30 in the morning and they're like, oh my gosh. And it's like, no, you don't start there and you don't do that just because you're building your way up. And I didn't add that habit on until the habit of waking up that early was already ingrained into me for work. And then I'm getting my clothes ready the night before. All the habits before me doing those push-ups have already been built and ingrained in. So the best way to climb the steps is just by attacking the stairs, doing one step at a time. Now you've coached you've coached senior leaders, high level executives, high performers. What's the number one internal block that you notice for high achievers that's holding them back? What's that number one block that's the greatest hits, the recurring problem that once they call and they start talking about it, you're like, another one.
Mm. They don't feel good enough.
Hmm.
So they keep having to try and achieve more. So they put the value in the wrong things. It's that old phrase, they spend money on stupid shit that they can't afford to impress people that they don't like, because they feel that the next accolade will make me enough. The next revenue target will mean that I'm a good man. The next, level of finances that we can put towards the college means I'm the provider that my father said I had to be. And I work with a lot of emotionally stunted men, not emotionally stupid, emotionally stunted. They are capable of feeling emotions, but they've never been allowed to express them or feel them because of their fathers and their fathers and their fathers. Now, this isn't to attack men. This isn't to attack our fathers and grandfathers and what have you. It's just a different time. It's a different generation. And what I see generationally is each generation has a small upgrade, and hopefully our children and their children will have an upgrade from what we've had, not
Mm.
just emotionally, but physically, financially, and otherwise. So they're in this pursuit, but of the wrong thing. So they keep working harder, spending more time away from their families, not to actually be present with them. And then they claim to me, I'm doing everything for my family. And they're not wrong, because they're doing the best they can with the resources they have at the time. When I challenge the beliefs, and I have to understand what their beliefs are, what do you believe a good man is? What do you believe the best version of you looks like is? And people will tell me their stories of the glory years, of how they used to be able to play football at a good level, how they, were in great shape in their 30s, and there's no way they can get in good shape in their 40s, etc., etc. So I have to meet them where they're at in the moment, and it's usually quite low. It's usually quite low self-esteem, and often outward facing, the people in these top executive roles, and we've worked with professional athletes too, people look at them like they've got a god complex, and people look at them like they've got this huge ego. But I don't see ego, I see insecurity. And there's a great phrase that ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. And
Mhm.
I love that phrase, because essentially, if you've got an ego, you're an idiot. So I don't mean that we can't be confident. I don't mean that we can't put our shoulders back and stick our chest out and say that we are good enough and say that we are, skilled in a certain area. But if you don't feel like there's any more, you don't feel like you can grow, you don't feel like you can learn, that's where I think an ego comes in. And that's why I'm surrounded by coaches. I've got coaches in every area of my life, because I don't have a big enough ego to suggest that I've got all the answers. So when I look at their labels that they use towards themselves, that forms their beliefs. That will then go to their actions, and that will go to their results. What I have to do is get to their thought process and their labels first. How do you view yourself? Some people outward facing, they got the Ferrari, they've got their house, they've got the nice Rolex, all their friends think they're killing it, and then they go home and they're crying in the dark, but they're smiling in the light. So
Mm.
it's the not feeling good enough is one of them, but I have to say the number two is the confusion and the cognitive dissonance, fancy phrase, but
Yeah.
have been torn between who they are really and who they're portraying that they are. So I don't think people lose their identity. I think they know who they are, but they're not comfortable living in it, because they've created this avatar and this character that they have to live up to please others. So then that just makes it even worse, because then they keep drinking because they don't want to let down their buddies. They keep staying at work to get after it and get the next commission check. All the while, the kids aren't getting tucked in bed by them. They're getting tucked in bed by mum, etc., etc. So Yeah, but I think it all really comes down to not feeling good enough and feeling like they have to try prove something.
Yeah, no, that's amazing and very well articulated, because the fact of the matter is when we don't feel good enough, it's almost the intentionality and the they say the attitude determines your latitude,
Mm.
where if you don't feel like you're enough, if you don't feel energized, you don't get out of bed with any tenacity. You don't attack your goals with any tenacity. You're on autopilot, going through the motions, going through the movements, and what ends up happening is the energy you put in is the energy you get out. And if
Yeah.
it's lackluster energy going in, it's lackluster energy, lackluster results, lackluster life. And you're still in this spiral wondering why you're stuck in this lackluster pattern.
Mm.
And it's changing that approach. It's starting with you mentioned what was it? Then the whole
When and then.
when
Mm.
and then a similar concept we heard before was we talked about was the have do be. When I have this, then I'll do that, and then I'll be
Mm.
happy, where you reverse it and you be do have. Be the
Mm.
person who has that stuff already. Be the person that you envision who does those things, and then the having will come. But we'd have to have that vision. When it comes to the person who is crying in the dark, smiling in the light, versus the person who, let's say, is a high performer and can continue that output. They operate at a high level. They have a very good sense of where they're going. They have a good home life. They're enjoying themselves. But this other person could be at the same job, same level. Is burned out, could barely keep up with what's going on.
Mm.
What do you notice is the difference between those two people, if one person continues to operate at a high level, but the other person is just burning out and can't keep up?
Beliefs is one. So what do they believe is to be true? This could be forced on them from a young age through mum or dad or school teachers, bullies, siblings. Could be, future casting a little bit the colleagues in the present day. So they feel like they can't progress because they're going to make their colleague Dave look bad, or their best friend or their brother. So sometimes they dumb themselves down depending on the environment. But when it's in the same environment, I think it's belief systems is one. If you don't believe you deserve to be happy, you're never going to work towards it or attain it. And you're always going to sabotage that happiness. So that's eating the junk food when you're on the diet. That's drinking the alcohol when you're trying to embrace sobriety. That's shouting at the kids when you want to have a great relationship with them. And then you start to judge yourself, and then you start to create shame and guilt, because that's how shame and guilt are formed, by judgment. If instead you can replace that with curiosity. So most people will say, if they miss a workout, for example, oh, I'm such an idiot, I'm always going to be fat, what's wrong with me? As opposed to saying, I'm wondering what made me not go to the gym earlier. Oh, I was exhausted. Why was I exhausted? I stayed up a bit too late last night watching Netflix, but today's a new day and I can go again. The difference from there goes to standards. I know a lot of people that have a fantastic standard for getting in the gym. They're there with me at 6 a.m. every day, and I've trained at the same gym for 2 years. And some people haven't changed. They haven't changed physically, they haven't changed their fitness levels, because in their mind, they're telling themselves getting to the gym is a win. Now, in the early days, I agree. I absolutely agree. And I have loads of compassion and empathy, because that's what's needed as a coach. But eventually, we have to deal with the reality. And if the reality is that you're overweight and you're miserable and it's impacting every facet of your life, we have to change the behavior. So they have a great standard for getting to the gym, but when they're inside the gym, they're scrolling on the phone in between sets, and the sets aren't testing them. So we're going, well, what's the point then? And then they go upstairs and they'll order a full English breakfast, which is about 1,700 calories, full of saturated fats, and they'll have 3 coffees before 10 a.m. And then they go, I wonder why my energy's so off. I've been to the gym, because you're filling your body with shit. So, you said it more eloquently earlier, but basically shit in, shit out. So if we can just, they don't lack the ingredients. this is going to sound a little bit bizarre, but they don't lack the ingredients for high performance because they're laying the gym gear out, they're drinking the water or they're preparing the water, they're getting to the gym. That's a fantastic set of ingredients. But when they get to the gym, the recipe's all off. So if they refined the recipe or asked for help from a trainer or another member, or they had someone to do it with, or they joined a community, or they joined a class or something to get them out of the monotony of the frequent underachieving, then straight away you'd become more of a high achiever. Because I look at a high performer as someone that wants to better themselves. There's a guy that goes to that gym and he is probably 450 pounds. He's a big dude, but now he's down to, I think, 400 pounds in the last 6 to 8 months. I love to see that. He's killing it. And some younger guys will, take the piss a little bit and they'll be, ridiculing, not openly to his face, but you can see the remarks and all that. I think, who are you to criticize him? He's getting after it, right? He's doing the work. Other people who are in a much better physical condition than him, but are complaining that they're not in the next level, is because their standards are off when they're actually there. And the other thing is discipline. The highest performers that I work with just do the work because it's needed. I don't go to the gym every day so I can have bulging biceps and a six-pack and be validated. That's what my goal used to be in my 20s. But in my late 30s, it's absolutely not. It's to be functional. I don't go to the gym every day, but I openly exercise every day because why would I not? This doesn't mean CrossFit workout every day. This could mean walking. This could mean mobility work, yoga, tennis, soccer, football, whatever. It could be a variety of different exercises. It's the same as brushing your teeth. I'm not motivated to brush my teeth, but if I don't brush my teeth, they'll fall out of my face. So, it's,
Yeah.
I think those are the two main things, mate. Three things. It's beliefs, standards, and then discipline. They're the three things that I believe separate your Joe Schmo to your top guys.
If iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. But if you're a man and you're alone or listening to this, then who sharpens you? What's going on, guys? Ted Phaeton here, host of the Modern Man Podcast, also founder of the Noble Knights Mastermind Group. And I'm just out here encouraging you to find your circle. Maybe you're on a personal growth journey and nobody around you understands the new mentality that you're possessing. That's okay. You can find an online community that will pour into you, will navigate your goals and navigate your obstacles, share their experiences, resources, and more. Join the Noble Knights Mastermind Group and try us out for free to tap into a community of men helping each other scale up and reach their goals. Check out themodernmanpodcast.com. Yeah, no, and that's fantastic because the standard we see everywhere. And a lot of people who listen to this podcast probably see it ubiquitously in their lives of wherever you are and wherever you operate, the person doesn't do the same. They don't operate at the same standards. And my wife has to talk me down at times when I go out and I'm the guy that when I had my first job at the age of 14 working a lighthouse, I perfected the butter recipe. I perfected the slushy because it was summer and it would get all like watery in there, so I would drain the liquid so it would be nice and icy. Then I had a line coming for those popcorns and slushies because I was 14, but I was like, listen, man, if I'm serving the slushies and the popcorn, it will be golden and salty and it will be the perfect ice consistency. But that was the standard that I had in doing so. But when you go out and some people don't treat their jobs with the same standard, you get lackluster service or you get a less than ideal experience because the person does not take it seriously. So it's not necessarily what you do. It's not just what you do. It's also at what level do you do it? How seriously do you take it? And are you getting better along the way? Even if you start, right? The heaviest door in the gym is the front door. Great. But are you getting a better workout tomorrow than you did yesterday, and so on and so forth, and keeping track of that along the way? You've said before, stillness is the birthplace of powerful action. What does stillness look like for a man leading under pressure? I'd like for you to unpack more of that.
There was a study done, and I'm going to slightly butcher the statistics, but it was asking men and women, would they rather sit in silence for 15 minutes or be electrocuted? And I think it was something scary like 40 or 50% of men would rather get an electric shock than sit with their thoughts. So, yeah, crazy. I don't know if you've ever seen the film Sound of Metal. It's
No.
brilliant. It's about a drummer who loses his hearing, and he's so frustrated. He goes to this special clinic to try communicate, even though now he's deaf and what have you. And they put him in a room, it's just a white room with a table and a chair and a pad and pen, nothing else. And he goes absolutely berserk because he just can't sit with his own thoughts. He's so frustrated. And I see this, and a lot of men live a life of quiet desperation. They can't just sit and be. And it's a challenge for a lot of people. I find it tough, mate. You know, meditation, it can feel very uncomfortable. And the reason why is because we have around 2,000 thoughts every hour, and 80% of those thoughts are really designed to be quite negative and to try and protect us. When you go back to the hunter-gatherer sort of era, if your head wasn't on a swivel and looking for risk, you'd be dead, and all your family would be. We're always looking to avoid pain. We're not always looking to seek pleasure. So when we see a crash on the freeway, we don't think, what a wonderful opportunity to listen to some music or a podcast. We think, I'm going to be late for work now, or there could be a family that's dead in the corner. We don't think like that. We just think, oh, this is going to be an inconvenience to me. So when we stop the chaos from, for example, when you go into Starbucks, and if you were to just not look at your phone and you were to be fully present, you'd see a dog bark, you'd hear a dog barking, you'd see a kid crying, you'd see a beautiful girl, you'd see some, donuts that look amazing, and what have you, right? There's all sorts of things going on. But because we get so distracted with our phones, we lose sight of everything that's going on around us. So when the coffee machine grinder stops going and the latte milk stops frothing and the dog stops barking and the kid stops crying, and then we do go home and we sit quietly with our thoughts, oh shit, what's showing up for me now? I need to get that deadline done. I need to go to the gym. Oh, did I play with my kids enough earlier? Why did I shout at my partner? What is wrong with all these thoughts come in? And if you can just sit today, I invite all of you to do this just for 2 minutes. And if you can close your eyes and put some relaxing music on, and you just breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds, you hold your breath for 4 seconds and you release for 4 seconds, all that cortisol and all that adrenaline is going to completely decrease. And we can create natural dopamine, we can create natural oxytocin and serotonin and all the fantastic chemicals that can happen in our body without doing it artificially through Instagram and TikTok. But I think it's this avoidance, because most men say to me when we encourage them to do meditation or some form of mindfulness or breath work, I'm doing it wrong. And what do you mean by wrong? Well, I just can't stop my thoughts. I went, good. If you stopped your thoughts, you'd be dead. So we don't want that. But again, the association is, I'm doing something wrong, I've done something bad, I'm bad, this isn't working, what's the point? That's what I see with a lot of people. So instead, we have to encourage them to, as you've alluded to earlier with the habit, build it slowly over time. So I think it's that we're just not conditioned to sit quietly. This is the generation of distraction right now. There's so much, vying for our attention. Even when you put your phone on airplane mode, you'll get random notifications on your phone because your phone doesn't like being on airplane mode. It'll come up with absolute nonsense. So yeah, I think that hopefully that answers the question. But I think ultimately, stillness is imperative for inner peace and calm, even if it's, build it up, guys, 2 to 5 minutes today. If you can do that over time, you'll start to feel a lot lighter. I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah, no, and it's a game changer, and I see life completely different ever since I've learned how to slow down, take a breath, and sit with my thoughts, sit in silence. I like me, right? I like sitting by myself. Sometimes I need expert opinions. I need to consult myself sometimes. But what you're talking about is mindfulness. And there was actually a research study done about the role of mindfulness in enhancing self-regulation, performance, and well-being. This was in the Journal of Organizational Behavior in 2011. And it shows that mindfulness and stillness-based practices increase clarity, reduce reactivity, and elevate performance, which is a core part of your coaching philosophy, right? That stillness and that being in tune with yourself, that mindfulness gives you such a powerful place to work off of, a foundational place. That groundedness gives you the foundation to build up from your life, your leadership, your choices, your decisions, and how you approach things. And when we talk about leadership, the masculine embodiment of leadership as well, many high level men, um, they compartmentalize things, right? Chaos in one area of life, but we focus on one area. But there's also a little bit of an overflow, right? If there's chaos at home with our spouse, that impacts our ability to navigate and function at work. With that groundedness, with that mindfulness, being attuned and attentive to every area of our lives, speaking to the men now who might be crushing it at life, but their home life is in disarray, or speaking to the men who think they can compartmentalize things and operate well in one arena, but not another. Speak on that overflow of what different areas of our lives can lead to if we're not managing all areas appropriately, if we're just crushing it in one.
Yeah, that's such a good point because I believe that we can have everything. Sorry, pause. We can have anything, but we can't have everything all at once in killing it in every area. Meaning that if I'm on a really strict regime in the gym or diet, for instance, date nights and takeout is going to take a bit of a hit because my goal has changed. But you can still do great things with your partner that are aligned to date nights, which don't have to involve going to nice restaurants or bars. So that's where you can um, improve both areas simultaneously. And I think it goes back to the ingredients thing again, mate, because I worked with a CEO about 6 months ago, about 50 pounds overweight, drinking too much, really stressed, marriages struggling, kids not interested in talking to him, but he's got a multi seven-figure business, nearly eight-figure business. And he said, I don't even know where to start. And I said, okay, if you had this problem in your business, what would you do? He goes, what do you mean, this problem? I said, well, okay, a problem. What would you do? Well, we need to identify what the problem is. We need to identify where the problem began. We need to get a strategy in order to move forward. I said, would you have regular meetings and, accountability? Oh, absolutely. We'd get a clear plan and we'd break it down and we'd do that. And he just laid out this incredible format. I said, right, what if you were to apply that to losing the weight and stopping drinking? He's like, oh, well, I don't know if I could do that. I said, but you just said what you could do for your work. So you're capable of coming up with this format. Are we in agreement there? Yes. Now, you might not believe that you deserve it, or you might not believe that you can achieve this physically because he's never been in good shape. His words, not mine. So he doesn't know what it is to be in good shape. And he was associating more pain to change than he was to staying the same. Because
Mm.
a lot of people talk to me about the comfort zone. And he said this, I'm just in my comfort zone, aren't I, Adam? I said, comfort? So what do you think of when you're comfortable? He said, laying on my couch, watching the game, with my kid and whatever. And I said, right, is any of this that you just mentioned comfortable? 50 pounds overweight, out of breath walking upstairs, hungover that you can't play with your kids, not as productive as you could be in the business, fighting with your wife. Is that comfortable? And he's like, no. I said, so it's not comfortable, it's familiar. You're not in the comfort zone, you're in the familiar zone. You know all too well the pain of the shirt not fitting and walking upstairs and being out of breath, but you don't know the pain of meal prep. You don't know the pain of exercise. You don't know the pain of drinking regular water and having to go to the bathroom every 20 minutes. But we have to change our belief and invite in some pleasure because they're the semantics. What I want to talk to you about is the feelings you're going to have. You're going to feel more productive. You're going to get more done. Kids are going to run up to you and hug you and say, "Great, daddy's home." You're going to be having more sex with your wife. When you look in the mirror, you're not going to be disgusted by your reflection. You're going to be really confident in your favorite shirt. How does all that sound? So I have to paint the alternative and I have to paint a different picture. He might not be able to see it, but I can, and I need to make him see it eventually. So
Mhm.
I need to make an unknown a known. He's unknown about the gym and what to do, so I have to bring in a known strategy, structure, format for his business. Now we can just apply this to the gym. So you said you need a plan. Maybe we need to go to the gym 3 times a week. Maybe we need to drink 3 liters of water a day. Maybe we could start, having a banana for breakfast and a salad for lunch and fish and vegetables on an evening, whatever. Then we can get a mix of strength training. Then we can do this. Then I can work with you on your belief systems and your labels and your mindset. Then we can get some other healthy habits in. But it's a process and it takes time. But so many men, especially successful men, are very impatient and they want the results yesterday.
Yeah.
But I say to them, you didn't start your business at 8 figures. It started with 0 figures. And right now we're at 0 figures. So the only way is up. That's the other good thing. This is only going to get better. You're not going to get in worse
Mhm.
shape going through the program. You're not going to feel worse. You're not going to be drinking more alcohol. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's essentially what it is, mate. I think it's just getting it out of their own head and putting it in terms they understand, because otherwise it's just some guy in a tight t-shirt telling them that they need to start looking after themselves better, and they just think, well, not interested.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, who are you? Screw you.
Yeah.
Yeah, making them see it for themselves, and a lot of what you've spoken about too, it's connecting the value to the action, giving someone the clear-cut value, the outcome, and the reason behind the action so that the action becomes more tangible and more doable, because now that the person can connect the reason why they do it, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to drink less because I do want to have more sex with my wife. Oh, yeah, I could come up with a meal plan because it does sound cool to be able to keep up with my kids and not be out of breath when I get to the top of a flight of stairs." All those things are outcomes they would want, but now
Mm.
that they have the attachment to the value and the action, they're more likely to take the action, which is where the actual change in our lives comes from, is the actual action. What is the price men pay for unchecked ambition or people pleasing in the pursuit of achievement?
Ooh.
Sorry.
Yeah, man. Divorce. That's pretty expensive in the literal
Yep.
sense. Um, Disconnection from children, disconnection from their identity, wasted years, unfortunately, in some cases, suicide, um, depression, anxiety. And I've seen both extremes. I've had people come to me feeling suicidal, and by the end of the program, they're killing it. I've had, people that have just been divorced and completely cleaned out. And the last few, grand, they want to put it on coaching. I always advocate they don't do that. And I'll, sort of send them some free shit that they can help them with and whatever. And they want the accountability to get themselves back on the feet. And they do. And then within a year, they're killing it again because they know what to do, but they just need someone to talk to. But the price is big, mate, and I coach other coaches on how to set up their business and monetize and all that kind of stuff. And one of the strap lines that I recommended for one of the clients the other day was coaching because it's cheaper than divorce,
Yeah.
and it's it's a damn sight cheaper than divorce. I can tell you that.
Right?
So yeah,
But you
but
got
yeah,
to either give me 10 grand or her 10 mil.
yeah, exactly. So especially when you're dealing with high net worth individuals, and yeah. So in all seriousness, no, mate, it it breaks my heart to see so many men struggling, and they're struggling for so many different reasons. And it might be that they don't know how to get free from it. Again, it's usually a low self-esteem thing. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve it. So if you are sat there listening to this right now, not just with me, could be with anybody in your local area, I don't give a shit. Please, please get help. It is not a sign of weakness. Showing vulnerability is your biggest strength, and asking for that help. You know, when you look at someone you admire, your Kobe Bryants of the world, your Michael Jordans, your Tom Brady's, whoever, they didn't get there completely alone. Yes, they put in a lot of groundwork and a lot of hard work over time, but nobody achieved anything of excellence completely on their own. They had teammates, they had nutritionists, they had physios, they had personal trainers, they had coaches, they had supportive parents by and large. So asking for help is not weakness, it's absolutely necessary. And again, if you are going through a shit time, please just reach out to someone.
Yeah. Amen, man. How do you help men redefine success in a way that includes joy, a presence, the creation of that purpose that we talked about? How do you help men find that?
I love that word joy because, again, they're so driven that even when they play, air quote, tennis or they play football, if they don't win, it ruins their day. That's not what play is. Right? So
Yeah.
I'm not advocating that we don't compete. I'm not advocating that, everyone just ties in second and everyone gets a medal. I'm not saying that at all. Like I said, I deal with elite athletes sometimes. I want them to be the best, of course, but it's what attachment are you putting to things? Can you find a bit of enjoyment in that? Can you smile? Can you do something that you truly love? And that doesn't have to be high performance. It could be playing the piano. I don't care. This afternoon, for instance, I've had a quiet afternoon of calls because I had a couple move to next week. And there's a new show on Amazon, and it's absolutely hilarious. And I watched it for 2.5 hours straight with no guilt, with no shame. And I was just in hysterics for most of the afternoon. And I feel amazing. It's great.
Yeah.
But don't kid yourself about what is providing actual joy and what is instantaneous pleasure. Anybody can go masturbate and feel good and then afterwards go, what the fuck is wrong with me? Anyone can eat a pizza and then go, oh my God, why am I like this? Don't confuse the two. Find something that you have genuine childlike joy in and embrace it without the shame, whatever it might be, because you're resisting your own happiness in the pursuit of people pleasing. And when you try please everyone, you please no one, especially you.
Hmm. Amen. For me, it's Call of Duty Warzone. I'll sneak in a round or two here and there every week, and that's my happy place. And even my wife will look at the bombs going off, the shooting, and all the strategy. She's like, "This relaxes you."
Yeah.
Like it makes sense. To me, it makes sense.
Mm.
Adam, we're coming up on our time. Before I ask the last question, last couple of questions, I first want to make sure that folks have a way to reach out, connect with you, contact you, look at some of the work that you're doing. If they're in a position to maybe look for a coach themselves, how can they connect?
Sure. Thanks, man. Yeah. So, um, Adam Smith, A Game on LinkedIn. If you type that in, it will come up, hopefully. It's a very common name, unfortunately. Um, A Game Consultancy is our website. And on Instagram, it's Adam Smith _ A Game. So they're probably the best things. And we've also got our own podcast, which is called A Game Unfiltered.
I love that. And I'll have the links in the show notes below for people to just open that up either in the show notes or if you're watching us on YouTube in the description. The last question I ask, it's usually the heaviest, which is why I save it for last. If this is something, an experience with your clients or from your personal life, feel free to share that as well. But what is something that you've seen or something that's happened to you that shapes the way you view the world as a man?
Wow, what a question. Oh, such a good question. When I was going through a tough time and I was doing the same repeated behavior, getting the same outcome over and over and over again, wasting months on end, my coach just broke all double bullshit down, and he asked me one question: have you had enough pain yet?
Mm.
And I was like, oh shit. And until you've had enough pain, you won't change. And that pain is very different for everybody. All I needed was that question. Some people are 5 pounds heavier than they want to be, and they absolutely kill it in the gym, and they're back to where they want to be. Other people need to be on the operating table with the doctor, who has told them over and over, if you carry on eating junk food and you carry on drinking alcohol, you are going to have a heart attack. And for some people, they literally die and don't change. So the spectrum is very, very large. But what it taught me as a man and how it impacts me in the modern day and general life is I don't have to get to rock bottom to change. And so I ask myself, if I'm unfulfilled in any moment, have I had enough pain now? Have I had enough pain yet? And if the answer is yes, I take action. So again, I implore anyone that is listening, just reflect and ask that question to yourself, but do it with compassion, do it with empathy, don't do it with judgment. And you'll find your way, you'll find your result from there.
High performance coach based in London, known for helping senior leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs unlock their fullest potential and expand their capacity for life and leadership. Adam Smith, thank you so much for being on the podcast, brother.
Thanks for having me, Ted.
It's been a pleasure. I'm going to recap a couple of the gems that you left along the way, because a lot of folks are either driving, cleaning, or working out while listening to the episode. But we need to pursue something, right? We started with pursuit because so many of us have lost hope, or we've come to this mundane, repetitive lifestyle that's not building towards anything or going anywhere. And we feel like we lost our purpose. No, we need to create our purpose. Purpose needs to be created, as Adam said. What is the strategy to move forward? For anyone going through therapy, for anyone who is working on getting over a traumatic experience, that experience did happen and your feelings are valid. However, after you accept reality and you face it, what is the strategy moving forward? How do we build upon this? They don't feel good enough. Are you not feeling good enough because of beliefs that you've held since you were a child? Perhaps you're crushing it, but all those exterior accolades mean nothing on the interior. Ego is the anesthesia that dumbs the pain of stupidity. Where's your ego showing up in life? And where is it numbing the pain that could be the pain you need to feel for change? Crying in the dark, but smiling in the light, wearing two faces, feeling that disconnect and that gap could be the hardest place to sit in. Belief systems, shame and blame, all the things that help keep us where we are, as opposed to leaning into the curiosity as to why did I skip the gym, and then unpacking it from there. Understanding your standard, and if your standard needs to increase, if you want to not just be a high performer, but high achiever as well, not just the input, but the output. And then date night and eating out will have to take a hit because my goals have changed. Something about the way you said that, I had to write it down. What needs to be adjusted because your goals change? How do you articulate that with those around you? How do you stay in your plan and lock in moving forward? Limit yourself from having to deal with more pain in order to change, because as Adam said at the end, have you had enough pain yet? And understanding that you don't have to wait till rock bottom to change. Maybe this episode is enough for you to make that change right now. If it was, I encourage you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment to let us know that this episode impacted you in a positive way. Make sure to like Adam and give him a follow as well. And check out our episodes each and every single week. Share this with somebody you know can get value from it too. And leave us a rating to let us know how we're doing. It's the best compliment you can give us, and it's very helpful for us to continue providing you with this amazing content. We appreciate you guys rocking with us all the way to the end. And as we always say, everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure without first the pain. Let's grow.